How's the preparation gone, and what's kind of the schedule this week?
Well, preparation has gone well. These guys have done a really nice job. They've had finals this week. We've had practice in between morning tests, evening tests, and they really handled it well. And still coming in and watching tape, whether it's here or at home. So, as far as how practice has looked and what they've been able to do, they've done a nice job. And lifting and running's been in there as well. So a lot of these guys' plates. They've handled it well. Tomorrow we have a handful of guys that have finals, so most guys are done. And we'll have a walkthrough, and then we get down there on Saturday. We go back through kind of our normal Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday practice, Friday before the game.
You know at this point if anybody's not going to be able to make the trip?
No.
Don't know, or nobody's.
Don't know until we make the trip.
Okay.
Yeah.
How is it different getting ready for a game that's before Christmas versus last year? You had one about a week after Christmas. Does it feel more rushed? Does it feel different?
It feels more rushed because of recruiting. Also, that factors in there as well. So when you play after Christmas, that goes into a dead period in recruiting, and now you have really just time to focus on football and less distractions, when it comes to being away from the players and all that. So, yeah, the last couple weeks we've been on the road, and these guys have been lifting and running, preparing for finals, and we come back on the weekend and have recruits in at the same time with practice. So our coaches, they've done a great job, our players done a great job of focusing when we're out there on the field and really getting something out of it, which to me, that could be something that would be disastrous if you don't have that, and I think these guys have done a great job. Playing in this game before Christmas, that's a benefit too. You get to play in it, you get to also be home for Christmas. These guys get a little bit more time that are coming back off, and that helps them in their recovery before we get started in January.
On the distraction thing, looks like your schedule, you're going to have most of your events in the morning as far as the zoo and that kind of stuff, then practice later in the day.
Right.
How do you approach a bowl and want these guys to have fun? And obviously a couple of years ago there were some players that had some problems here, but how do you kind of want them to have fun, and then how do you make sure that they're focused, and how hard is that, and all their families hanging around the hotel and that kind of stuff?
Yeah, we just talked about that, and that's part of it. You can't have that go away by any means, and we don't want that. What we ask is when we meet in the morning, we're focused. Everything about that meeting and our attention is on what the coach is saying, what we're seeing on the film, what we have to get done for that day. When we go to SeaWorld or we go to the zoo and enjoy that, it's all about focused on that, enjoying that experience. We go to practice, it's refocusing back on practice. In the evenings with families around, enjoy it. At the same time, as we get closer to the game, there's curfews, there's things that we have to spend time on in the evenings, whether it's film or visualization, whatever that is, to prepare to get ready for the game. Ultimately, the main goal is to go there and prepare for the game and win. At the same time, take advantage of all those opportunities we get by being in Southern California. And it really goes back to not just this moment, but what we talk about in our program. You have to be able to do that. And whether it's school, football, life, whatever it is, it just applies now more to the bowl game. And I think our guys last year were very good when it came to distractions that way. I think they handled it, they enjoyed it. At the same time, they knew what the focus was. And I feel like where we are right now, that's the same approach.
Yesterday, somebody asked about Combo Correa's future, and last year you had Jay go, and he announced it before the bowl game. Curious, kind of again how that process kind of breaks down. And is it a good thing though? At the same time, I mean, this would be potentially the third year in a row that somebody from Boise State's at least in the discussion of being talented enough to leave early.
Yeah, well, I think from that standpoint, let me answer it this way. I don't know. That's the one thing. And for you guys, that hasn't been even kind of a focus for any one of us. Players, coaches, about who's leaving. We're focused on Northern Illinois. That's all we can spend our time on. What happens after that, we'll obviously focus on, what goes on next. And, we have guys that have to get surgeries, prepare for spring. We have guys that might be thinking potentially the NFL. And so, to me, all those things, that's the distractions that we can control, and we don't talk about that. We'll figure that out when it's over. The main goal for everybody going into this game, whether it's seniors or potential guys, play well. That's what we want to do. We want to play our very best game that we play. We want to take all these experiences from the season, good and bad, and apply it to that game, and hopefully it shows up with a win in our favor when it's all said and done. But those are the distractions that we're not going to let hurt us, or we're going to talk about going to the game. So it's all about Northern Illinois.
Just to clarify, I mean, there's a report out there that he already had decided he was going to declare and that he was vetting agents. I mean, can you confirm that or deny that?
I can't. I don't know where those reports come from. It didn't come from me. And if that happens, then you will know from me. And if that means you'll have the truth, I'll tell you that. I don't know how to.
So he hasn't
answer that.
decided that, or he hasn't made a
Not that I
decision?
know.
Okay.
Yeah, he hasn't told me.
Is it nice? I mean, like I said, I know you want to keep these guys probably until the end of their eligibility, but to have guys that are in the discussion of coming here and developing themselves and putting themselves in a position to leave early. I mean, that's obviously speaks to volumes of development here, I guess.
Yeah, well, that's those are guys that are good players. That is development. But again, we'll talk more about that after the game, and I'm sure if that happens, we'll have a great story on it, and that'll be exciting for whoever it is, and we'll address it more then.
How do you think he's played so far this year? I know he was dealing with some double teams and stuff like that, but he came in with such high expectations, and stat-wise, at least the numbers aren't where they were last year. But how do you think he's played?
I think he's played well. I think he's like a lot of our guys, and I don't the stats and the expectations. We try to go game to game, and I think he's done his assignment. I think he's played well. I think obviously he's a good player. Take the NFL stuff out of it. He's a good player, and when you see good players on tape like we do, you want to try your best to neutralize them, and he's probably seen more of that this year than he did the year before.
And doing story on Darian and his career here, and
Yeah.
I guess
He's definitely coming out. All right? So we can talk about that. There's no doubt about that, and we've talked about it, so we're good there.
what has he brought to this program that's really going to remember about him and what he's done here?
I actually got to go spend some time with his high school coach about 2 weeks ago, and I learned more in 2 hours about him than I had my entire time with him. He's really, his opportunities he's taken advantage of and where he is right now. He's a father. He's a career leader in our conference. He's an impact person on our team. He's going to have a chance to play at the next level. I don't have enough time to really get into it, and I probably couldn't put it all into words right now. I guess when I left his high school, I really felt like an appreciation for this guy who's in our program. Wish I had known this 2 years ago, or when we had first gotten here, about him, but he's made a big impact. Because the thing about him, he approaches every single day with a business-like attitude when he's out there. And it's what J.J. Watt said, you only have a certain amount of time to play this game and take advantage of it. I think he does that every time he's out there.
You get, presumably get Shane back if nothing has changed.
Shane will be back.
What can you get out of him at this point? How important? I mean, it seems like most of these guys who've gotten hurt late in their senior years haven't gotten to really come back and be a full participant in the bowl game. How big of a deal is that to get that one last game?
Well, I think for him, it's huge to come back and play. You don't want to finish that way. For us, he's a playmaker. So to have him back out there, he looked great, practiced well. So it's big. It's big for everybody.
There's a lot made about going under center more in the San Jose State game and kind of how that helped with the downhill running for Jeremy. Were we kind of was there too much made about that when you look at just how that affected that game? And it sounded like Jeremy said he liked it because he can get downhill faster, and that there may be more of that in this game. I'm just curious.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think when you ask those questions, what are you going to say? I didn't like it.
Yeah.
That to me is every game's different. We game plan and we're going to be under center. It's not so much a philosophical change. It's just, hey, this game, these look better, and we want to do it this way. So we're trying to change some things up game to game.
I guess I'm wondering more just the effect that it had was that you got running the ball.
Well,
was
in that game, yeah, in that game it did. I don't know if it was necessary. We could have done it from the gun too. That's the one thing. We could have done those same plays. We just chose to change it up a little bit and let Brett get under there and come downhill on a few runs. I do like that, and we'll continue to build that way and go back and forth. But as far as do we have that as just one way of doing it, it's not that way.
with graduation on Saturday? I know a couple years ago the Hawaii Bowl guys weren't able to stay, but the way the schedule works, you guys are able to let these guys walk, have the graduation ceremony and stuff before you leave. How nice is that? And I guess how cool is that for these guys to get a chance to graduate?
Well, it's huge. They get to walk their families, get a chance to see them. That's why you're here. That's the main point. And we obviously worked our schedule and travel time around that so they could be there to walk. And we've got 17 of our 20 guys have graduated. So that to me is something we're very proud of. Guys have played, but they're finishing school and doing what they came here to do.
Looking at the film, what have you seen so far out of North Carolina? You've had a couple weeks to digest it. What do they bring to the table?
They're big. They're big up front on the offensive line. They're big at tight end. They're big at running back. I think Graham, their quarterback, with him back in the mix, different team than what you saw the last 2 games of the year. So a team that's won a bunch, really confidence and pride. Defensively, really solid. Bowl game, you always expect maybe a few exotic blitzes in there. They don't show a lot of pressure and all that, but they're very good at what they do. And the 2 corners they have might be the 2 best we'll play against. They're well coached. And I don't know their coaching staff. That's what I see on film. I just see a bunch of guys that expect to win. I see a bunch of guys that have played in a lot of conference championships. They hadn't lost in November in like 6 years. It was something like that. So, a very prideful team. And physically across the board, very good. Number 19, their wide receiver, might be one of the best we've seen all year long. So they're very talented on top of having that mentality that goes along with it.
You get to play in your number 1 recruiting territory. What kind of opportunities are there? And also, looking at it, it seems like you guys have maybe more San Diego area guys than you've ever had. I'm wondering who's kind of opened that up for you.
Well, Red, Coach Avalos, all of our guys are really in California. It is a big area. That was a question yesterday with their media. Really want to go there and play well. You want to play and win. But California has been a large area for us in recruiting. There's going to be opportunities for those families to come to our game and watch us and really see us live that they may not be able to do at other games. So being down there, being in that area, we're familiar with it, and hopefully playing well and putting on a good show will be a big help for us when we get back out there in January. And you can talk about, hey, you remember when you were at the game, or you remember when we did this? You're going to be able to have some conversation pieces based off of the bowl game that we're in. And the Poinsettia Bowl, I'll just say this, I've had a chance to play in the Holiday and the Poinsettia. Both are first class when it comes to treatment and all that. So just the bowl game itself is fantastic for our guys.
You added 4 guys yesterday. Can you touch on those 4 guys a little bit about what they bring and with
If I
the
can
2
get through this, yeah.
and with the 2 high school guys, I guess what brought them in early?
Well, we had those guys penciled in, and with that new rule of announcing and all that, now they got to get here. All right, that's important, but we fully expect that. Tyson Mayava from San Diego, linebacker, stud. He's been a guy that we've been on for a while, committed to us. Wanted to come in early. I think the first one to ever do that from his high school. And then Cole Bailey. I get you a drink here, fellas. Hanging last year. Sorry.